Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling a pretty big question, one that I know a lot of us struggle with. How can we design our lives for, maximum focus and productivity?
Yeah.
To help us kind of unpack this, we're going to be diving into excerpts from Staying on the Road by Sameh Mahmoud.
Oh, great.
This book is packed with practical advice, and our goal today is to really distill those golden nuggets, stuff you can actually use.
Right.
So let's jump right in.
Yeah, what really struck me about Mahmoud's approach was the emphasis on simplicity.
Okay.
You'd think a book on productivity would be filled with these complex systems and, kind of crazy strategies, but it actually advocates for going back to basics.
Yeah, he starts with foundational tools, right? A physical notebook for to-do lists and a digital calendar for appointments. In our hyper-digital world, I'm kind of curious about the rationale behind sticking with pen and paper.
Yeah.
What is it about that?
Well, there's actually a lot of research supporting the idea that physical writing enhances memory and clarity.
Oh, interesting.
And Umberto Eco, the philosopher and novelist,
Right.
he beautifully articulated the cultural significance of lists.
Okay.
He believed they bring order to chaos, making the infinite comprehensible. So when we write something down, we're not just recording it, we're actively engaging with it, and that process helps solidify those thoughts and intentions.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like you're giving those swirling thoughts a tangible form.
Exactly.
And it's not just about capturing tasks, it's also about prioritizing them.
Right.
The book introduces the ABC method, which I've heard of, but I've never fully grasped. Can you kind of break that down for us?
Absolutely. The ABC method is all about ranking tasks based on their importance. So A tasks are mission critical, the ones that really move the needle towards your biggest goals.
Okay.
B tasks are important but not as urgent. And then C tasks are those that you could probably delegate or even eliminate.
Oh, okay.
And the brilliance of this method lies in its simplicity. By focusing on your A tasks, you're essentially ensuring that you're dedicating your energy to activities with the highest impact.
So it's not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things.
Exactly.
It reminds me of that story about Steve Jobs challenging his team to narrow down their top 10 priorities to just 3.
Right.
You understood that spreading yourself too thin leads to mediocrity.
Exactly. It's a powerful lesson in ruthless prioritization. Now, once you have those priorities sorted, the next step is, of course, execution.
Okay.
And the book introduces a technique called meaningful and focused work.
I'm intrigued by that phrase. Can you unpack what meaningful and focused work actually entails?
It's a simple but surprisingly effective technique. You set a timer for 25 minutes and commit to working on a single task with complete focus. The key is that whenever a distraction pops up, whether it's an email notification, a phone call, or just a random thought, you jot it down on a separate list and immediately return to your task.
So you're not ignoring distractions completely, you're acknowledging them, but postponing them. Is there a psychological basis for that?
This technique cleverly taps into the science of delayed gratification. By choosing to focus on the task at hand instead of giving in to immediate distractions, you're essentially training your brain to resist those impulses and stay committed to your goals.
It's like building mental discipline.
Exactly.
It's like building that muscle to stay focused.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to managing internal distractions, the book emphasizes the importance of environmental design.
Yes.
I have to admit, I'm often guilty of working in cluttered spaces.
Sure.
Does that really have a significant impact?
The space we work in plays a profound role in shaping our focus and productivity.
Okay.
Staying on the road encourages creating a dedicated, distraction-free workspace. And there are these fascinating historical anecdotes that support this.
Oh, really?
Remember Victor Hugo, the French author?
I've heard the name.
He had this extreme routine where he'd ask his servant to take away all his clothes so he wouldn't be tempted to leave his desk until he finished writing.
Wow, that's commitment. I can't imagine resorting to that, but I do see the point.
Yeah.
So, practically speaking, how do we design our environment to support focus?
Right.
Aside from drastic measures.
Well, you don't have to go to Hugo's extremes.
Okay, good.
Simple changes can make a big difference. Declutter your workspace, put away your phone, or use apps to block distracting websites and notifications.
Right.
It's about consciously shaping your environment to work for you, not against you.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's really about control.
to control your surroundings.
Yeah, and making sure that they are conducive to the kind of work that you want to be doing.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll delve a bit deeper into the book's insights on managing our internal landscape, particularly through meditation. It's fascinating how even like small tweaks to our surroundings can actually influence our focus. You know? Like we're architects of our own attention.
Now, beyond the external environment, though, the book also kind of delves into the importance of managing our internal landscape, particularly through meditation. And I have to admit, I've always been a bit skeptical about meditation. Is it really that effective for improving focus, or is it just hype?
You know, meditation's benefits for focus and attention control are very well documented. It's not just a new age trend, there's a solid scientific basis for it.
Really?
Studies have shown that regular meditation practice can actually change the structure and function of the brain.
Wow.
Particularly in areas associated with attention regulation, emotional control, and self-awareness.
So it's not just about like feeling calmer. There are like actual neurological changes happening.
Exactly.
That's pretty compelling. But I think a lot of people, myself included, are kind of intimidated by the idea of meditation.
Yeah.
We pictured, monks sitting in silent contemplation for hours.
Yeah.
Is that really necessary to kind of reap the benefits?
Not at all. Staying on the road emphasizes that even a few minutes of daily meditation can make a significant difference. And the book shares this really compelling story about one reader, Shirley,
Right.
who describes her experience with meditation as a training method for the mind.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Wow.
She makes this great analogy about building a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
She says meditation is basically a training method for your mind. When certain things happen to you, your mind generates a certain response, whether it be happiness, frustration, anger, etc. The way your mind has been inculcated is the path of least resistance.
Right.
It's a powerful image. She's essentially saying that meditation helps us create new pathways in the brain, allowing us to respond to situations more consciously, rather than reacting automatically.
Exactly.
And she compares it to doing push-ups. She's like, if you ever do a lot of push-ups, eventually you'll realize I can flex my pecs. You couldn't flex them before. You don't really know how you learned to do it, but now you can just do it.
Yeah.
It's like building that mental muscle to focus.
Exactly. And the beauty of meditation is that it doesn't require any special equipment or expensive courses, You can do it anywhere, anytime. The book suggests starting with simple breath-focused exercises.
Okay.
By bringing our attention to the breath, we're essentially anchoring ourselves in the present moment and training our minds to stay focused.
Okay, that sounds more manageable than I imagined.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered external and internal environments.
Right.
But what about the structure of our days?
Sure.
Does the book offer any guidance on planning and time management?
Mahmoud emphasizes the importance of writing simple plans for our goals and then using a feedback loop to adjust them regularly.
Okay.
He provides an example of adjusting an exercise plan, which I think a lot of us can relate to.
Right.
We set these ambitious goals like going to the gym every day, but then life happens.
Yeah.
Instead of abandoning the goal altogether, the key is to assess what's not working and make adjustments.
So it's about being adaptable and not getting discouraged by setbacks.
Exactly.
It reminds me of a quote by Elon Musk. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself.
It's a brilliant quote.
Yeah.
And it perfectly captures the essence of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
It's not about striving for perfection, but rather embracing the process of learning, adapting, and refining our approach along the way.
I like that. Now, on the topic of planning, I remember the book highlighting a specific practice, dedicating a separate notebook for planning.
Yes.
Mahmoud even calls it the 5-minute habit that can change the course of your life.
Right.
What's the reasoning behind this dedicated notebook?
The idea is to carve out just a few minutes each day to write down your goals and the steps you need to take to achieve them.
Yeah.
And he emphasizes that if you don't have your own plans, you'll end up following someone else's. It's about taking ownership of your life and consciously shaping your path.
Yeah, there's something powerful about writing those goals down. It makes them feel more tangible and real.
Absolutely.
But sometimes the hardest part is knowing where to start.
Sure.
Does the book offer any guidance on creating these plans?
He provides a really simple framework.
Okay.
First, identify your end goal and your motivation for achieving it. Why is this goal important to you? What will it allow you to do or become?
Right.
Then visualize that end goal as vividly as possible and break it down into smaller actionable steps.
Okay.
Finally, choose one task you can start working on right away to build momentum.
It's a great way to avoid getting overwhelmed by the big picture.
Exactly.
And to ensure we're taking those concrete steps forward.
Yeah.
So we've got our environment optimized, we're practicing mindfulness, and we're creating clear plans. What else does staying on the road emphasize when it comes to maximizing productivity?
One of the most powerful takeaways is the concept of relentless execution. It's not enough to just have good intentions or to create elaborate plans. We have to put in the work day after day, even when we don't feel like it.
Yeah. And the book doesn't sugarcoat it, right?
Yeah.
It acknowledges that there will be days when we're tempted to procrastinate.
Of course.
When distractions seem especially alluring, when we question our ability to achieve our goals. But it encourages us to kind of embrace those challenges and keep pushing forward.
Exactly. Mahmoud even quotes Will Smith, who said, "The only thing that I see that is distinctly different about me is I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill. I will not be outworked, period."
Wow.
It's that mindset of unwavering determination that can make all the difference.
It's about showing up consistently even when we don't feel inspired or motivated. That reminds me of a passage from the book where Mahmoud shares a letter from composer Tchaikovsky to his benefactress.
Oh, yes.
And he talks about those times when inspiration doesn't show up on demand. He writes, "Do not believe those who try to persuade you that composition is only a cold exercise of the intellect. The only music capable of moving and touching us is that which flows from the depths of a composer's soul when he is stirred by inspiration. There is no doubt that even the greatest musical geniuses have sometimes worked without inspiration. This guest does not always respond to the first invitation."
He calls inspiration a guest that doesn't always show up on time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to describe those creative blocks we all experience. But he doesn't advocate for waiting around for inspiration to strike.
No, he doesn't.
He goes on to say, "We must always work, and a self-respecting artist must not fold his hands on the pretext that he is not in the mood. If we wait for the mood without endeavoring to meet it halfway, we easily become indolent and apathetic. We must be patient and believe that inspiration will come to those who can master their disinclination."
It's such an important message.
Yeah.
It's about taking responsibility for our own creativity and productivity rather than waiting for some external force to motivate us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, to solidify all these habits and principles,
Yeah.
staying on the road culminates in a challenge.
Yes, the Sapphire Challenge,
Right.
where readers are encouraged to put all these habits into practice for 3 consecutive days.
It's a great way to put the book's wisdom into action and see how those small changes can create a significant impact. And I think that brings us to a natural point to transition to our final thoughts on this deep dive.
Sounds good.
But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear what resonated most with you from staying on the road. What insights or strategies are you excited to implement in your own life?
Yeah, it's remarkable how much we've unpacked from these excerpts. For me, the biggest takeaway is the realization that productivity isn't about finding some magic formula or complicated system.
Right.
It's about building simple, sustainable habits, being kind to ourselves when we stumble, and constantly seeking ways to refine our approach. I completely agree. Staying on the road offers a framework that's both practical and inspiring, and I think the Sapphire Challenge is a brilliant way to put that framework into action and experience the real-world benefits of incorporating these habits into our lives.
Absolutely. It's a great reminder that even small changes consistently applied can lead to significant results. Now, I also appreciate that the book doesn't position this as like a one-time fix,
Right.
but rather the beginning of a journey.
Right. Mahmoud even hints at upcoming books in the Magnificent Legacy series that delve into topics like public speaking, vocabulary, building speed reading, and even mental fitness. It's like he's created a roadmap for continuous learning and self-improvement.
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities that open up when we commit to that path of lifelong growth. And I think that brings us to the heart of what makes this book so compelling. It's not just about productivity for productivity's sake. It's about using these tools and strategies to unlock our full potential.
Precisely, it's about living more fulfilling and meaningful lives. And on that note, I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question from the book. How will you design your environment and schedule to make focus and productivity a natural part of your life?
It's a question worth pondering. I encourage you to reflect on it, to experiment with the strategies we've discussed, and to discover what works best for you. Remember, this is a journey, not a destination. There will be bumps along the way, but the key is to keep learning, keep growing, and keep moving forward. Thanks for joining us in this deep dive. We'll see you next time.